Before I begin, I want to do a little exercise. You all have a piece of paper, yes? Okay, you all have a pen or a pencil or something to write with? Okay, I am going to say 5 words. After I say one word, you write down another one. The first that comes to mind, just scribble it down quick. So, for example, I have the word wedding, right? And then right away you write it down, shotgun. First word that comes to your mind. Whatever it is, just scribble it down quick. Don't worry about being judged. You're not going to have to share these words with anyone. Just the first thing that comes to your mind, write it, because I'm only going to give you like 5 seconds. Y'all ready? Yeah? All right, here we go. First word, blue. Write down the first thing that comes to your mind. Blue. Second word, balloon. Balloon, balloon, balloon. Number 3, penguin. Anything, just write it down quick. Number 4, period. Whatever that means to you. And number 5, day. Last one, day. All right, so now you should have 5 words, yes? Save those words. Right now I have a story. So I'm in San Francisco one night, right? And I'm striding along those hilly streets, trying to hold on to my pride as I'm hyperventilating so hard that my lungs are coming out of my nose. And I get to the top of this mountain. It's really just a hill, but don't tell anyone. It's a mountain. And I have this feeling. Maybe it's a breathless feeling because at this point, again, I'm at like 50% oxygen intake. But it's a feeling that I can fly. That if I were to just spread my arms and lean into the sky, I would be snatched up by the northern breeze like a feather. So I make my way down the mountain, up another one, down another one, and I finally get to the Golden Gate Bridge, which is lit astoundingly by bright yellow lights, and it's beautiful. I climb up a little ways on one of the bracers, stand on my 2 feet, stare out at the bay. Might be the sun is rising, I don't really remember, but then I just close my eyes, lean into the sky, and I just wake up. Now that was a dream. By the way, just to clarify, I didn't actually fly off the Golden Gate Bridge. That would have been nice, though. That dream inspired this novel, In the Dead of Night. Shameless plug here, I will be outside during intermission, so you guys should stick around, and I'll be signing In the Dead of Night novels. I look forward to talking to you all. And so, In the Dead of Night is, yeah. Before I do get to talk to you, I have a question. I can kind of see you guys, but just raise your hands. How many of you guys have always wanted to write a novel? Okay, quite a few of you. Now, keep your hands up. How many of you guys have actually written a novel? Okay, like a wave of hands goes down. That's pretty cool. So what's holding you back? Time. Oh, I'm too busy. Writer's block. Oh, I have no ideas. Technical issues. Oh, the only pen I have in the house is running out of ink. My computer keeps freezing, and my dog ate all of my paper. Whatever the excuses are, right? I don't know, there are millions, and I know all of them because I have excuses for not writing all the time. I'm too hungry, it's too dark, Grey's Anatomy is on tonight, and I need to know what happens to Meredith Grey. Whatever the reasons, just throw them out the window and watch them fly. Now anyways, you're probably wondering, who am I to be bossing you around? I probably look like a little baby up here, just finished high school, right? Well, yeah, that's me. I'm 17 years old. I am the author of 3 published novels, and as our amazing MC tonight introduced me, my name is Trinity. And today, I want to inspire you guys all to write. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories with tips and tricks woven in about my experience with writing, and hopefully by the end of this, you'll be bubbling with stories and tales that you want to tell, and you'll be able to use what I told you today. So, all of you has a story, right? Whether you know it or not, and I'm going to try to extract that story from the back of your mind, whatever it is, bring it to the front so that you can write. You can just go ahead and put that novel, write that novel, and not worry about any more excuses. So, that's easier said than done, right? Excuses are kind of hard to shut down, so maybe, how about this? I'll tell you some reasons to write. Write because you want to. Write because it's an achievement that you'll always be able to look back on and say, I did that. I wrote a book. Write because you think you can't, so you want to prove yourself wrong, right? Because an ex said that your plot is as thin as a fishing line and your characters are as dull as your history teacher's lectures. Whatever it is, right? Just find that reason to write and do it. Maybe you just have a story, which was what happened to me. When I was in 8th grade, I just had this story of saving the world. I mean, I still do have this story, right? Who doesn't? In one moment, everything comes down to you, all eyes on you, and you have to punch in some buttons on Twitter or something, diffuse the situation between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, whatever it is. You type in some buttons, whoosh, it sends off to Twitter, send the Wi-Fi, and then finally, you save the world, bam. That was my story. Obviously, well, I mean, maybe not that exactly, but that was my story. I wanted to save the world. So I wove that story, and I thought about it, but I never actually got to writing it until someone pushed me. Someone had to shove me and tell me, this is your assignment, write this story down. So I eventually ended up doing it, but it was this crazy story, right? So you all have crazy dreams, I'm guessing. Maybe you have dreams of walking on the moon without a spacesuit, whatever it is. If you can't live that dream in your real life, if you can't save the world using Twitter in real life, then maybe just use your dreams and live them through the story that you can write. Or maybe write because you could help someone. You could help that casually suicidal entity sitting next to you get through a hard time in their life. Write because you could help someone discover his or her identity. On the opposite side of that spectrum, write because you have this talent of making people happy, and you can just share that talent. You want to make everyone just laugh. You're a funny person, right? Now, you guys are probably thinking like, write a novel. That sounds easier said than done, again. Well, yeah, just sit down and write. You have to start somewhere. So maybe more reasons. Do it because you're bored, rather than watching TV or playing video games or staring at the ceiling fan from the ground, wondering what consciousness is and how atoms make up a personality. Just write. Maybe write because your 8th grade English teacher said you had talent, because you had a spark that could drive you to the hands of multi-million-dollar publishing companies. Or maybe just write. Write because I told you to. When I started writing pretty much as soon as I could put pen to paper. When I was in 1st grade, I remember writing silly poetry like I had a friend named Millie, and Millie was very silly. Millie's shirt was frilly, and Millie's dad's name was Willie. Still today, when I'm bored, I write stuff like, there was an old lady named Sally. She lived in a house in the valley. She ate kale for snacks. She bought a new Mac, and now she's buried in Cali. Get it? Because like Silicon Valley, hipsters, eating kale. Okay, anyways, since 1st grade, I still do write silly poetry, but believe it or not, I also have moved on from that. I write spoken word poetry and novels and short stories. In 3rd grade, I tried writing my first novel about my imaginary friends, Allison and Susie. It ended up being somewhat of a failure because I couldn't yet fathom something hundreds of pages long, keyword being yet. So I kind of trashed it, moved on. I was in 3rd grade. I was a little bit frustrated, but whatever. 6th grade, I tried writing something about becoming a veterinarian, because I love animals, but I'm not allowed to have pets. I don't know, ask my parents. So again, this is me living the life that I want to live through my writing, living my crazy dreams through my writing. Again, kind of a failure. It was probably like 10 pages long, and I got kind of frustrated with writing. I moved away with writing novels, that is. I moved away from it and started working on spoken word poetry. 8th grade now, my English teacher has us write this big assignment, 2,500 words. And I'm grumbling and groaning, giving all the excuses. Those of you who raised your hand and said, I want to write a novel, but then dropped it when I asked if you had, I really understand that, because procrastinating is great, right? So yeah, finally, like the day before it's due, I sit down and I bang something out. 2,500 words turns into 25,000. 4 quarters later, 25,000 words turns into 100,000. And I have something of a novel that is Yeah, I have a novel called The Revolution. And it's about this girl who, spoiler alert, if you're ever going to read it, just cover your ears real quick. It's about this girl who punches in some buttons and saves the world, right? I decide just for fun that I want to publish it, and so I send it to a few small publishing houses. I get rejected. They're like, oh, you're too young. Oh, the story has potential, but it's not really what we're looking for. So I'm like, okay, I kind of expected that. I mean, we've all heard this story about how J.K. Rowling got rejected by like 7 or 8 publishing companies and agencies before she finally got accepted and got to build this world of Harry Potter, right? So I'm like, I can be the next J.K. Rowling. I don't need to focus on this right now, so I'll get to regular publishing later. For now, I'm going to self-publish. Self-publishing, for you starting authors, is like the most amazing invention ever. Probably like a better invention than the thermos, which can keep things hot or cold, right? Self-publishing gives you the chance to put something out there without having to deal with big, overly controlling publishing houses. So freshman year, my book is in hard copy, and I can confidently call myself an author. I get my book like featured in the town crier, and I can confidently call myself an author. All I needed was a little push, a little assignment. So now you guys, your assignment is to take those 5 words that you got from the slides. Maybe they had something to do with the slides, maybe they were just totally off topic. Whatever it was, take those 5 words and turn them into 500. From there, notice how 500 turns into 5,000, turns into 25,000, turns into 100,000, and soon enough you'll have a novel. All you need is a little push, and then get your revolution started. From there, from that revolution, from mine, I didn't stop. I joined this writing community called Wattpad, and I started this semi-autobiographical novel just for fun. I had no intention of publishing it, but then I actually got a lot of traffic on Wattpad, and I got messaged by a small publishing company saying that they wanted to publish my book. So a year after I started writing it, this book, Waiting for the Sunrise, was published. Basically what I'm saying with Wattpad is if you find yourself, personally this is me, if you find yourself starting projects and then you don't have the strength or whatever, you get lazy and you just can't finish them, join a writing community, because you'll find that the people there share your same passions and they'll continue to encourage you and urge you to keep writing. If you're too shy, then just go anonymous. But personally, without those people giving my story traffic, I never would have gotten my book published, and I might never have even finished the story without their comments asking for more installments. I never would have learned about myself, and I never would have discovered myself, looked within myself through that character, through that novel. So another good point, why to write. Sure, write because you want to, write because you're bored, because it's an accomplishment, but also write because it'll teach you about yourself. There are questions swirling within your brain that you never even knew you had. And the layers of your personality can sometimes obscure your core, and peeling back those layers by writing is how you can peel back those layers. If you're too lazy to go to therapy, try writing, right? It'll be like looking into a crystal clear mirror and finally seeing yourself so deeply. You'll discover yourself, you'll be introduced to yourself, you'll get to meet yourself. Now, I know still you guys, probably you have doubts, right? Writing a novel, yeah, I can write 500 words maybe, but a whole entire novel with characters and plots, yeah, that's step 2. So Waiting for the Sunrise was pretty easy for me because the character had I had aspects of myself in the character. Her mind was my mind, her thoughts were my thoughts, her friends were my friends, and I was able to put my internal dialogue into her head. All I needed to do was like deep fry it, add some seasoning, and then my little story came out as this delicious, juicy novel. If you want to get started writing something fictional, and you want your characters to have depth and layers, rather than just conjuring them out of thin air, try basing them off of yourself. Again, put your internal dialogue into their heads. Now, this might be hard for those characters that you have to write who are years older, years younger, different background, different ethnicities. Well, start small, work from there. You'll soon find that everyone is human, that all humans are different, yeah, but also we're kind of all the same, right? We all have doubts, we all have struggles, we get scared, we get frustrated, and writing a character can be daunting, but remember that that character is human, just like you. So that leads me to plot. as you write, your plot will come together. My last book, which was about that dream, In the Dead of Night, that book took me ages to write. I started it, I decided I didn't like it, so I almost threw it away, but then I didn't, luckily. I read Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel, and I fell in love with this genre of magical realism. I was inspired, and I wanted to try it, and so I did, and it didn't really work, so I took a break. I came back from it a few months later with this new idea, and I reworked the story, I added to it, and finally it came out the way it is. So each time I came and went from my story, I built and continued to layer on the plot. This leads me to my last story. My last point, some of your stories will fail. That's a given. But rather than trashing or burning them, rather than wiping them from your computer, just keep them and because chances are they're going to come in handy someday. A character who finds himself in a different setting, a recycled plot line or a reused conversation, something as small as a reused conversation. Just because your stories don't work doesn't mean that they're bad. So moral of the story, if you fell asleep, wake up the person sitting next to you or something, write. Just go home and write. Do it now. As you do, you'll find that writing becomes easier and easier. It'll become more satisfying, more fun. And if you have trouble, join a community, find your reasons, whatever it is, just let those excuses be excuses and just go ahead and write. If you're angry, write something rage-filled and red. If you're sad, write something dark and somber. If you're happy, write something that will make someone fall in love with life. Right? It's therapy, remember? Because even if you're not in therapy now, you could be writing now. And I mean now. Write now. Because if you don't write now, chances are you never will. You'll never get to discover who you are, your true potential. You'll never be more than just you. Those thoughts and those dreams in your head will never be bigger than just you. If you don't write now, how can you trust yourself to start later? I think it was Benjamin Franklin who once said, "Never leave till tomorrow that which you can do today." So do it today. Leave your legacy. Don't be afraid of emotions that are coming out of you. Don't hold yourself back. Don't tell yourself you do it later. Don't let that beautiful tale that you have to tell stay trapped inside of your head. Just put your pen to paper or your fingers to your keyboard and start to write. Now. Thank you.